Behind the Middle Belt killings is Caliphate ethnic cleansing. Behind Niger Delta agitation is Caliphate seizure of oil and gas. Behind Biafra and Odua agitation, Caliphate imposed unitary Nigeria. Behind the Caliphate itself is the rogue 1999 Constitution. Elections 2023 is Caliphate's push to retain the 1999 fraud. Nigerians, say no to any further election in the country. Let's take down the 1999 Constitution and save our people and our land.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending today's Joint Learners Clubhouse session. Today's topic is Local Government Autonomy is Ruga in disguise. In the next 23 minutes, we'll be listening to two Learners broadcasts entitled Water Resources Bill is Ruga in disguise, a Learners countermand. And the second one is Water Resources Bill, Fulani targeting all lands in Nigeria. We brought these two broadcasts because Tinubu's local government autonomy is Ruga in disguise and is another attempt to create Fulani economy so that Fulani can take over the lands of Nigerians from the local government or community levels, as was the case with the Ruga bill in disguise, disguised as Constitution Amendment Bill titled Local Government Autonomy Bill in 2022, and the Fulani land grab scheme dressed up as National Water Resources in 2022, which was shut down by Nina's countermand. Thank you for listening.
Yes, you will recall that in a recent broadcast in our alert series, when we had to make a special broadcast to shut down the attempt at amendment of constitution to create the Ruga through the back door in the one they titled Local Government Autonomy. Our intervention shut down the concurrence required to pass any amendment from the states, and so it was easy to instruct the states not to even consider the amendment propositions from the National Assembly after the Senate had voted. Of course, it died there. And that was the seventh attempt at getting the Ruga, the Fulani economy, going. Now, they have turned up from another angle that will begin and end with the National Assembly. They say Waterway Bill, in which the federal government, of course, the Fulani-controlled federal government, trying to bring the Ruga back through the back door that will exclude the states in terms of that decision being taken. And that bill that had come, it took people in the 7th or 8th assembly, come back again, is Ruga in disguise. Let nobody make any mistakes. The Waterway bills that have gone through the first reading in Nigeria's House of Representatives is the same Ruga, is the same attempt at creating Fulani economy, is the same attempt at taking over the lands of Nigeria by Fulani people, citing climate change, the same way they cited climate change for the what they call the farmer-herdsman clash. At a time, it was Fulani invasion that was happening. This broadcast is to not only alert us, but to tell us exactly what to do to stop them before they start, before they go beyond where they are now in that yet another attempt at passing a law that will put the lands of Nigerians into the hands of the Fulani invaders. What has been done differently is to try to pass a law that is not an amendment of constitution, citing something extraneous to all of us and trying to jump over the Land Use Act that is embedded in the inner recesses of that constitution. Since we have suffered all the atrocities of that constitution, the Land Use Act that vests the title in the governors, as long as that constitution has not been taken down, no square inch of land belongs to federal government in Nigeria. Any land that the governors don't part with does not go to anybody. And so, at law, and I'm in a position to report on this, at law, land includes everything on top of the land and everything beneath the land. It's only in Nigeria that all kinds of warped legislations, including land use acts, all kinds of laws that try to separate, land from the content of land. Water is part of land. Water is only on top of land, whether it is static water like you have in lakes or moving bodies of water. If you are talking about 50,000 hectares of land around the streets and rivers, everything, and this waterway bill will also annex all there. I don't know what measure they put to it now. Some say 2 kilometers, others say more, across the length and breadth of Nigeria. That will now become federal government property. If you go up to the sky and you see the number of rivers and streams and bodies of water that could be captured under that law, you will see that it is the entire Nigeria, because we don't have a federal government if we don't have a federation. If anybody wants to be federal government to come to discuss any matter on our behalf, especially a matter as sensitive as this, we are talking about climate change and body of water. When we will not settle the matter of whether we are in union with you, nobody is going to accept anything that will touch anything that has to do with land in the name of federal government, because it will take land and hand over to Fulani that have been trying to set up colony, that have been trying to seize everybody's land. And so what do we do to stop this? It is very simple. All the members of the House of Representatives of Nigeria that are in that assembly, this is now marching orders from leaders. If that bill as much as goes through second reading, by this broadcast, we are declaring an emergency on that subject matter. Whatever it will take, if you are a member of the House of Representatives of Nigeria from any part of southern Nigeria or middle belt of Nigeria, where our people have been slaughtered and endangered by the invading Fulani, who now want to use the instrumentality of their control in that House of Representatives to pass a law that will take over the bodies of water and the adjoining lands throughout the country. We are saying that if you are a member of the House of Representatives from any part of the South and Middle Belt, we will hold you responsible if that bill goes through second reading. Whatever it will take, whether you start a physical fight in the House or you have to act in advance to make it abundantly clear that it will not happen, that the bill will come to second reading. Because the lands that will be seized are already vested in the governors of the state. Even these blockers also go to the governors so that they can liaise with members of Nigeria's House of Representatives from their various states to say that the title deed, in case anybody doesn't know, the Land Use Act that is, that is embedded in the part of the constitution that requires 4/5 majority to amend, vests the title to all the lands in the governors. So your federal government that is trying to make a law that will impact on ownership and control of land is already in breach. Even that first reading is already in breach of that constitutional provision, because the Land Use Act acquired the status of constitution for being embedded in that constitution, especially in the part that is practically impossible to amend. That constitution has to go down before anybody can reach where Land Use Act is. And so, as long as this debate, this union, this debate and dispute have not been settled, nobody in the name of federal government should be allowed to proceed beyond where it is already. First reading is bad enough, especially considering the fact that that bill had been brought in the past, not once, not twice. And look at the person bringing it, a member from Katsina. Are we not back to Fulani agenda again? A member from Katsina, the one that was brought before, member from Katsina. It is Fulani agenda in continuation of their colonization plan, in continuation of their Conquest designs, in continuation of their Ruga designs, anything to take land and hand over to Fulani. That is what they're doing. And so the members of the Nigeria's House of Representatives who come from South or Middle Belt should decide among themselves while it is early to make sure that that bill is not mentioned on the floor of the House of Representatives in Abuja for second reading. If you all sit, we don't want to know whether you opposed it or you voted for it or you kept what they call it, abstain. It's not of interest to us. Our marching orders on this subject is that that bill should not go through second reading. If anybody attempts to bring it and pass it through second reading and you sit in the place, if you have to set up a physical fight, let the whole world hear it, that the people, the Fulani, are trying to take the land of the people you represent through the back door by passing on the laws, citing climate change. The same way they cited climate change for the farmers, herders, clash force narrative they put forward to the international community at the time they were invading the place. We know the role of Amina Mohammed of the UN on all of this, talking about the environment and climate change and body of water and the need to preserve water. All of those things come secondary to the primary question of Fulani invasion intended to take over the lands of Nigeria. That's what is of concern to us. And anything that will take us in that direction, anybody who is going to be involved in it should be ready to be confronted by his own consequence. If that bill should go to second reading in that National Assembly, all the members of the National Assembly from the South and Middle Belt should be ready to be confronted anywhere they are found, whether in their constituency or anywhere that their constituents. They have to be the ones to be held responsible for allowing that to happen. Anything they need to do to prevent it from happening, whether they do it up front, so that they tell their colleagues from everywhere that this bill will not be allowed to go to second reading. Or if it is smuggled in on the day, that house should be shut down by your activities. If you refuse to do that and you say we oppose it, we are not going to listen to that, you have to return from the place in terms of pulling out from that house. Let that house be shut down in terms of there's no union anymore with the people who are trying to take the land of your constituents because they're going to kill them. They're already killing them. You're only going to validate for them if that bill goes to second reading. The governors of all the states are equally notified that the title deed over all lands and water for this purpose at law is part of land. So if anything comes from that bill, you also will be held accountable because the Land Use Act that grants the title to the land is in trust with you. That is, the titles are vested in you as governor. in trust on behalf of the people. So you don't own it in the manner of going to trade it off with federal government for any kind of other consideration. Only the referendum of the people at this time, except something changes in that land use decree or the land use act, only the referendum of the people can authorize any elimination of land in that manner, such that you allow federal government to take any part. But the people are completely opposed when the person to speak for the people on this matter. The indigenous people whose lands are being threatened by this Fulani invasion, by this Fulani attempt at conquest. You have to be on the side of your people on this matter. Governors and members of the House of Representatives. We don't want to hear about that Waterways bill for second reading or any other purpose. I think we can leave it there. The word should be enough for the wise. Let us avoid the catastrophe that's avoidable. We had talked about the so-called Water Resources Bill that was sent to the National Assembly, and the title of that broadcast was Water Resources Bill, Ruga in disguise, a Nina's countermand. Just like Nina's shut down the amendment that was disguised as Local Government Autonomy, that Water Resources Bill will say is dead on arrival, because the Land Use Act that invests the title of the governor is embedded in the Constitution and has acquired the status of Constitution, such that the federal government cannot legislate on anything concerning land, and for the purpose of that legislation, water is part of that. Land is everything on land and beneath the land. Therefore, water, for the purpose of that bill, is part of land. The governors have we hear that in the government forum, we saw in the news report that the governors say that the law has been proposed does not meet it offends the Constitution. We will say to the governors, welcome on board to stand up and say so before they get to the next step. We also heard about the impeachment that was intended. I want us to look at this map. The reason we've come to make this broadcast now concerning that bill yet again is to let us know the depth of mischief, is to let us see the depth of mischief building up around us. The map you see here in the background that has all these blue, zigzag marks are people. That map, what you see in blue, in the satellite charting, the satellite imagery of what will be taken by that Water Resources Bill, which intends to annex to the federal government ownership 3 kilometers of land to the left and to the right of all bodies of water. What you see in this map, everything you see in blue in this map, is the waterways and the 3 meters, including the 3 kilometers to the left and right. That's why it is that wide. So what you see in blue is all the waters that will be captured by that law. And as wide as you see that blue is how wide the 6 kilometers of land that will, straddle those waters. That is to the left and right of the waters. When you look at it overall, you will then see what is left of anybody's land. All the lands would have, all the lands are actually taken. Look at the map again. Everything in blue is the land that will be taken if that bill is allowed to progress beyond where. So it's even worse than all the other Ruga attempts they have made. This is more comprehensive, which is why what you see in that blue is it will be said to be more than 3/4 of all the lands of Nigeria. Look at it again. And so, if all this with the waters running in the middle of all those blue lines is the body of water, and the lands 3 kilometers to the left and right throughout the country. If all of those lands and waters become now the assets of, because they say they'll take land anywhere water is, the land that adjoin it. If all of that become the exclusive property of the federal government, that is owned by it's already owned and controlled by the Fulani, there's no land left for you. Just cast your mind over to the river that you know, whether it's River Benue or River Niger or Ruga in Ibadan, or the ones in Abeokuta. Take 3 kilometers to the left, 3 kilometers to the right, sweeping through the length and breadth of that river. That is what they target. And so, yes, the governors have spoken, but we come back to the members of National Assembly from the Alliance territory to remind them that that bill should not see the light of the day in terms of getting to second reading. Until this constitution goes down, that bill should not be allowed to come to the floor of that house. If it does come to the floor of that house, the owners of the lands that are going to be taken will take it out of, will hold you responsible for aiding the enemy that want to take their land. The mere fact that it comes for second reading at all is your guilt in the matter. The only thing we don't want to hear how you opposed it or how you voted when you began to debate, when the debate began. The only thing that you are being asked to do now is to make sure it doesn't come to second reading. Whatever you have to do, including shutting down that house. I think we can leave it there for now because we've spoken about it before and we have referred to the title of the broadcast in which we spoke about it.
Thank you for listening. May I, at this point, invite the NINA's spokesperson, Mr. Nadi, to take us further. Sir, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome everybody to tonight's session. What you've listened to in the first and the second broadcast had to do with the various masks, the various disguises that the Fulani Conquest agenda, the Ruga part of the Fulani Conquest agenda had adorned, had assumed. You recall that we are talking about local government autonomy now that has failed from the angle of constitutional amendment, which they tried to do when Buhari was in place. To say, oh, the local governments, the governors are stealing the money of local government. The same formula by which Uthman Danfodio in his jihad convinced the Hausa populace that their kings were corrupt and that the Islam they had was inferior. Therefore, the peoples of the Hausa people joined these invaders to get rid of their own kings. And the Fulani stepped into the palaces and have been governing them to this date. From that deceit of you are all corrupt. When Buhari came in 1983, go back to what he said. For overthrowing the government of the time, it was all about corruption and more corruption. He's the only clean man. But look back at what happened when he left. case in point, 53 suitcases. They went about changing money. He went about allowing some people to move their own monies in and out. And there was this incident where 53 big suitcases loaded with money under the custody of his chief security officer, ADC or something. One Major Jokolo, who then became a emir later. I'm telling you the question of accusing everybody else of corruption. So, local government autonomy has been dressed up as a measure to stop the governors from taking the money meant for council development. That's the front end. At the back end, it is a swindling design, something by which the Fulani Controlled Federal Government will become the controller of your community to your household, because the way they crafted the law by which they are trying to do this, the one that's not constitution, the conditionality attached to this direct allocation to local government, which looks very sweet from afar. The conditionality, if we were to borrow the language of IMF, is that if money will come straight from federation account to local government account that will not have governors, any kind of governors input and tampering, then the conduct of local government elections, I want us to listen very carefully, because you saw how they passed their national anthem. It went through first reading, second reading, and they are just going around in their brigandage. When you do such a thing before the president will sign, where are the states, where are the federating units? Where is their concurrency in what is being done? And so they're going to railroad all kinds of things. What they're trying to do in attaching that condition that INEC will take over the control of local government election, it means that the INEC that is sitting in Abuja, controlled exclusively by the Fulani, will now be the one processing candidates for you in your local governments. Hitherto, all the way to now, even now, local government elections have been the state of the business of state independent electoral commissions. That is SICs instead of INEC, state independent electoral commissions. Meaning that whatever the federal government has done or will do to tamper with the affairs of the state in terms of governor and the administration of the governments of the state are in charge of the local governments conducting election, managing, being part of managing their finances. Yes, it comes to a joint state and local government account. Of course, the governors are going to be responsible because that was how the voting was designed from beginning. They are now pretending they do not know that it was intended for stealing. What have they done about the money that go to the governors and the immunity that are attached to the governors? What have they done about the corruption of all the governors across these last 25 years? Flowing from the appropriation provisions that give them the spare key to the treasury. If they are concerned about corruption, what have they done about the provisions of the constitution that exclude responsibility to the citizen? So the governor can have all the money and have the spare key to take all the money in the treasury, but it does not owe the citizen any education or feeding or housing or even healthcare, anything at all. Go and check section 6, subsection 6C of your constitution. The government does not owe you any obligation at all. All these illiterate lawyers that jump around the TV stations, characters like Femi Falana that goes to say, oh, the government is failing its principal duty of welfare and security. Welfare and security is in section 14 of that constitution. Section 14 is in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is rendered, is nullified by section 6, section 6C, meaning that all those good things, including welfare and security, including equal treatment, including housing and healthcare and every good thing you can imagine, that are in chapter 2, which are supposed to be the benefit of the citizen in the social contract. The constitution is the social contract. Those things are nullified. They are bunched together in chapter 2, and chapter 2 is expressly, rendered discretionary in section 6, subsection 6C of that constitution. What does it translate to? It says, that section says that the government basically will do any of all those things in chapter 2 for you when it's convenient for them, when they're able to do it. And the jurisdiction of the court is removed from listening to your complaint if those things are not done for you. That is why Boko Haram or whoever Fulani herdsmen can come, or bandit as they choose to call it. There's no bandit anywhere. It is terror and invasion going on. Fulani invasion for conquest, ethnic cleansing. That is why 800 people could be abducted or killed in a Agatu community, or abducted 500. Any number of people can be taken away, can be killed. The government does not owe you the security that section says they owe you. The government does not owe you the welfare that section 14 says they owe you. Any lawyer that goes to TV to say the government is failing in providing that is being dishonest, especially if he ought to know. Because the reality is that the government, under this in black and white, does not owe you that obligation. And so they put you to sleep when they jump around from studio to studio in TV to tell you that government is failing. You saw when in the Buhari presidency, Olisa Bokoba went to court in Abuja, I think at the invitation of Ohanezo or some Igbo leadership platform. Olisa Bokoba filed a suit in Abuja challenging Buhari's appointment in nepotism, to say that the chapter 2 of the constitution provides for equal the federal character in which ministers, all kinds of appointments will have to be balanced throughout the federation. And he claimed a damage of 50 billion on behalf of his clients, whoever sent him. Where did the matter go? How did the matter go? That section that I told you about, section 6, section 6C, that already removed the jurisdiction of the court, was the end of that effort. How could Olisa Bokoba senior advocate, what he was taken to court has been barred from being entertained in court by that constitution? So the judge, no court is empowered to listen to him. That's the summary. And that is the question of just federal character. As it is with federal character, so it is with security, so it is with welfare, so it is with school, so it is with hospital, so it is with infrastructure. Everything that should have come to you as citizen of Nigeria that sells 3 million barrels of crude oil every day, no part of that money is meant for you. Not a dime. That is why Ababio can put 3.7 trillion in padding into a budget. And in 48 hours, they share it among themselves. In a country where the citizens cannot find food to eat. Today I read in social media, I don't know whether they say they now want to send 75,000 to people. They are talking with labor, offering 50 and 60,000 naira. You are taking 60 million, 50 million. And you think that the people that are actually doing the work can only get 60,000. I don't blame them, because the Nigerian Labour Congress that is not interested in this discussion of the constitutional arrangement that render them the poverty capital of the world, the Nigerian Labour Congress that is going to ask for only increment in their own small salary, they doesn't care about the fact that the electricity that they have to use, the road they have to use, the refinery that have to be in place, all the things that other countries have taken for granted are not in place. And who else will be organized to make that demand on the system? We are doing what we are doing to rescue them from a monster. When the Fulani get to their community, do they spare them because they are in labor congress, in trade union? No, they behead them. That is security right there. That should have been secure for them if the constitution was rectified. The economic assets, they come from one part of the country or the other. All of them in that trade union, in that labor congress, they come from one part of the country or the other. The ones from Niger Delta, their oil and gas that should have been their own economic assets is taken by this constitution through its exclusive list. So it no longer belongs to them. Then they go and, like Almajiri, they go to Abuja to kneel down and beg the people that are sharing money in trillions to give them 10,000, like lunatics, all of them. We have attempted to address them in private. They didn't come. The reason I'm explaining to us that the Constitution is 100% responsible for everything that you have seen going wrong. And all of those who subscribe to that Constitution across all the political parties are the reasons you are living the way you are living. Whether the Fulani is beheading you in the middle belt, or your economic assets are taken, or you are excluded when things are being shared in the name of federal character that becomes quota system. The day they want to use it for themselves, federal character, they will bring in their people who are not qualified. But it is that same federal character that is responsible for the quota system in which people with 2-3 marks from Zamfara will be admitted into a school where your child with 120 marks cannot enter. From primary school to secondary to JAMB, they cut you off and cut their own people in. When you come out from that university, they send you on NYAC from the south. You are sent to go and perish in Karanamada. And their children are sent to Port Harcourt to be not only serving in NNPC, they will be retained. The children of Sokoto will be sent to Lagos to be retained in Central Bank, to be retained in MPA, to be retained in all kinds of such places. All under the cover of that same constitution. But when it comes to your turn to get the benefit of equal treatment, they will now apply that same rule in the reverse to say, well, because the people are educationally disadvantaged, they have to lower the bar for them. They have been lowering the bar for them since 1912, 1913, all the way to 1914 to admit them into King's College. The standard at the time, they could not come by merit. They could not pass any exam. So it was lowered for them, and it became a principle that found its way into our constitution. Okay, back to local government. I'm giving you other examples. We talked about Fulani Conquest agenda. That's the overall demon. The constitution they imposed on us to be able to hold us down to do that conquest properly. That's the resident evil. That is, it holds you down where you are. So if they are killing you, you cannot touch gun. Because the constitution puts gun on the exclusive list, federal government. What is federal government in a situation where we don't have a federation? So it is in the context of that conquest agenda that we are telling you about waterway bills in which they wanted to take over everything. We blocked them. They have tried grazing routes when Buhari came. So before independence, there were routes that they wanted to sweep over everybody's land. When you have 3-4 kilometers, expanse, imagine a road that just to tell you the kind of land that could go into grazing route. If they say it is 3 or 4 kilometers wide, and it will sweep from Sokoto to Port Harcourt, imagine all the city, all the towns and villages and lands that will be swept. And they could take it into 10 places. What will be left of all the land? That is grazing route. Because at the time they will be gazetting it, none of you will be in the room. It will be Buhari and the Fulani architects. We blocked it. They then say, oh, grazing reserve. Okay, it's not going to be route anymore. They will be stationary, but they will take any quantity of land they want. The moment it is grazing reserve, that is Ruga right there. We blocked it. Buhari comes around to say, okay, all the military barracks, the land, because they always have some bush behind all the big, military bases. They always have a place they do bush exercise and all of that. There's always that big land that the communities are not allowed to dwell in. So Buhari, by executive fiat, said that all those lands will be available for the cows or until the reserve grazing reserve arrangements are concluded. By fiat, he threw those things open. Those places became the launching pad for the Fulani invasion, because they are behind the barrack in 82 division, in the one in Abeokuta, the one in Ekiti, the one in every place. And the Fulani officers inside the barracks are liaising with the commanders of the Fulani herdsmen in the bush. They take cover inside the barrack, and you can't go to challenge them, because if you call police that they have raped your daughter, or they have killed your son, if you call the police will not go with you to go and arrest people who are in army barrack. That was what Buhari did. We raised alarm, it became a very big issue. There were fights here and there. I don't know where that one eventually ended. But again, they now come to this from Waterways bill to the national livestock, the one they sent errand boy or Shibajo to go and launch in Benue. National livestock, whatever. That is, their business has become our collective business. All of us have to provide the land to do their private business. And in doing that private business, they can eat your crop up and kill the farmer. Today, people are finding it difficult to buy what they can eat, because there's no farming going on. Why is there farming not going on? Fulani herdsman. Why is it a problem that people who are coming with gun? Is it that we don't know how to shoot anymore? No, the constitution ties our hands to the back. And people with education across the length and breadth of Nigeria are sitting, preparing to go to another election under that constitution, that put all the guns in the hands of people who are invading them to take their land and kill off their people in a conquest agenda that predated their births. That conquest agenda had been there before they were born. That conquest agenda was what Muhammadu Buhari was talking about in October of 1960. That conquest agenda was what brought Murtala Muhammad in the middle of 1966 in the revenge coup. That conquest agenda is what brought Muhammadu Buhari. You saw how he threw the borders open. Fulani did trooping in. They're already in your forest. And it is that constitution that makes it possible. It is that constitution that tie you down into the stupid Nigeria that died in 1966. And so the local government autonomy that they tried to pass by way of amendment to constitution, and Ninas countermanded it by telling the states not to entertain the concurrence hearing. Now this interregnum president, this fellow that did not win the election, this fellow that bragged his way through the primaries, we saw it on national TV, that bragged his way through INEC that declared him winner when he didn't win, because there was an absence of a requirement of 25% somewhere. That candidate that bragged his way through the Supreme Court to be retained is now, because he has a rickety mandate, and that is the danger we are in now. You don't know what covenants, you don't know what commitments Bola Tinubu has with the Fulani that are allowed, that coronated him in February of 2023. You don't know what agreements he has with them. Our suspicion is that this local government autonomy, in which the federal government that is controlled by the Fulani will take over the affairs of the local governments. We already have bad problem that the federal government is controlling the states with the exclusive list. The federal government is the one doing all the governance. There's no, the state governments are just appendages the state government are just beggars at the feet of the federal government. When you remove those 68 items, they cannot organize security. Your governor cannot issue one rifle. For our people in the diaspora, whose first response to the insecurity in Nigeria is to say, oh, why our governors not organizing security? They begin to contribute money to send to those who go to buy gun and all of that. And governor will set up to vigilante, buy some funny uniform. Under this constitution, none of those guns will be used, can be found with anybody if there is no police license, if there is no DSS clearance. In a situation where the enemy that is invading you to kill you off and take your land is also in control of that police and that DSS and that army that has to issue you rifle or authorize you, why do you sign up to such a constitution to go and defend it that you cannot touch gun? That is the first item in that exclusive list: arms and ammunition. Why do you sign up to a constitution that take the economic assets from you? Oil and gas here, bitumen there, limestone there, all the solid minerals, gold. Why do you sign up to a constitution that says you cannot organize who will govern you? People who have to sit in Abuja and process everything for you. Why do you sign up to a constitution that forbids you from generating and transmitting electricity for yourself, except as you are permitted in the areas they are not interested? Even when with the amendment, with the bogus amendment that Buhari signed, because that's why you see some people with PhD, they go to TV to run their mouth that there has been amendment. The state can at least do. You go and build a gas turbine because there has been amendment. You require gas to power that turbine, to supply that electricity. Gas is still on that exclusive list. Is it not an idiot that will be celebrating such? That at least now the state can do. Whether it's coal you want is on the exclusive list to use. What of the transmission and all the things in between? That's for electricity there. Look at refineries. You take my oil and gas, you hand it over to a Fulani man, Dangote, to come and refine for me, because you tie my leg and hand with the refineries that you put on your exclusive list. So even if I'm willing to buy crude oil, I'm in Port Harcourt, I have the capacity to set up refinery, even if it's modular. But because only the federal government, Fulani, when you hear federal, put Fulani there. When you hear national, put northern. So you can see the picture of your country. I'm telling you the instrumentalities of control that these invaders had instituted in the name of constitution. That the states are not in charge of anything at all. Anything at all. And then the little that local government could have been doing, at least under the influence of some governor that may turn out to be better than the other, the Fulani now want to take over your communities directly, because when they are the ones to conduct election, they have deposited their kind. All these people selling Syria in your communities have been impregnating your girls under a carefully orchestrated demographic alteration design. Young girls, 14, 15, 16, 17, struggling from secondary school, going to that suya they go to take from those people selling in your small communities. You don't know how many of them had become pregnant. You don't know who they have given birth to. Those children bear your names, look like you, speak your language because they live in the communities there. But the Fulani know their own. Some of them, from what happened in the war of the 60s and the occupation of Eastern Nigeria throughout the 70s, and which is still ongoing. there are people who know that they are Fulani, but they bear Igbo names, they bear Yoruba names. You think they are few, they bear Plateau names. The Fulani that have been trying to take over the entire country from the beginning of the country, these are all parts of what they do. So when INEC now takes charge of conducting local government elections that used to be the business of the states to do by themselves, and then the concomitant, the condition for that direct transmission of money to local government is that INEC will take over control. The money is coming from them direct to local government, who will then owe allegiance to them. Your traditional rulers you think is now your last line of defense. You are living in Lagos thinking that your traditional ruler in the village is watching over whatever you left in the village. Their payment, their salary, the allowance for traditional rulers is 5% of money that go to local government. If Abuja is now the one to pay that money directly to that local government chairman, your traditional rulers' allegiance is first with where his money will come from. Don't make any mistake about that. It's a lot of money because they get an average of 200 million every month. That is the local government in terms of allocation. At times it's higher than that. And so some of the traditional rulers in the independence, that's why you see them fighting tooth and nail over where their domain will begin and end. Everybody wants autonomous community because they want a share of that 5%. That 5% is a lot of money. A retired school principal may not have up to 100,000 as his pension. A retired school principal. And then the traditional ruler in the community where that retired school principal is getting 5% of, there could be 2-3 local government areas under his domain. And even if it's only one, 5% of 200 million, 10% will be 20 million, 5% is 10 million. You can see in the rural places where you think there's nothing, where the businesses are struggling to make 500,000 in 1 month or 200,000 in 1 month. The man that goes every time you see him, traditional ruler, that 5% is everything. It's a lot of money they are prepared to kill. That's why they are killing in the fight for who occupy the seat. And they are the ones spying against you for the government that pays them. They are the ones supplying all the information that nobody can get from outside. They are not there on your behalf. They are there for themselves. And when you go further back, you see that the what they call the warrant chiefs that the British imposed when they came in the eastern part. I don't know where there may be similar things in other places, but in the eastern part, we didn't have these paramount rulers. Forget about what the Nollywood has created as impression, that we are all full of princes and princesses that are killing themselves in the palace. Those things came with the British. In this colonial venture we are just recovering from. And who did they make those warrant chiefs? People whose loyalties were not with you in the first instance. People who were rejected by the community, the worst of the community most of the time. People who are banished by the community. So in that anger, they joined the British. They are the ones that became police. They are the ones that became the warrant chiefs. You saw some of it when Ichoku, that's this Wadishi, Chukubiko Kereka and Co. and Loma Jugoji. You saw that interpreter there. Those are the kind of things that happened in that time. They selected people who are not, whose loyalty and allegiance will not be to that community. Those are the people they preferred. So they made them the cutman, they made them the police, they made them the warrant chiefs. That's how we came about this kind of people whose allegiance is not with their people. That's why they outnumber the rest of you in terms of owing allegiance to the enemy that is invading you. So this local government autonomy that has now gone to Supreme Court, let me tell you the danger. Since they could not do it by amendment, they have gone back to the constitution to say that yes, there's a federation account, there's a federal federation allocation that goes to the states not only for the state's allocation is different. The one for local government is now paid into a joint account. So they want to use the influence of the Supreme Court that they control to now say that since the Constitution intended that the money should go to local government, Governor, you have been seeing it, therefore Supreme Court says that the local government should get, so they will use the Supreme Court to bypass the Constitution that had its reasons. Is it that the Constitution did not know the address of the local government chairman all this while, or the local government councils all this while? The Constitution knew there was a reason. They put that because we are now talking about regional autonomy. How can the same people talking about autonomy for the federating units be rejoicing if not that they are under a spell, if not that their stupidity had come to where Professor Sipala should be celebrated for reading them correctly? Is it not utterly stupid to demand autonomy for the federating units and be celebrating the attempt of that same enemy that took away your autonomy at the level of state, at the level of regions that were fractured by this butcher of Asaba and the Gowon is a handmaid? You are now rejoicing that that enemy is going to take over the finances and the election into your local government. Fulani will control you to your community, and your local government chairman will be going to Abuja the same way governors are going to Abuja today. Their loyalty and allegiance will be to the Fulani that have to pay them their money. Your traditional rulers will be in the tow, because if they misbehave, they will be removed. That is, their 5% will cease to come. That is the danger we are in. What do we have to do? This constitution that Nina say has to go down. If we don't take it every day postpone the enforcement of our consensus against that constitution, enforcement of our consensus against this enemy in all its forms, we are increasing exponentially the cost in blood for rescuing ourselves from this encirclement. Imagine if Ninas was not there. Buhari would have finished the task in 3 years of handing the entire Nigeria to the Fulani. Imagine if Ninas was not there. The waterway built would have passed. The Ruga would have been in its 5th or 6th year, in which you just wake up to now realizing that you've lost your sovereignty the second time. They are trying to run away from that constitution collapsing before they take. They are empowering themselves with that constitution. So every day you retain that constitution, you are only facilitating what they need to do to conquer you. Why is it difficult for people with education to pull back from whatever they thought before? Because they think, oh, constitution is National Assembly. We told you it's not National Assembly. We are not talking about writing new constitution. Let us get rid of the fraud that say we submitted our lands and our people into union. That's what Ninas is campaigning for, pushing, fighting for. But the people in that danger are blinded by their stupidity and their greed, their dishonesty. Northern president, Southern president, Igbo president. If characters like Peter Obi knows that this constitution is the reason the people are being slaughtered all over the country, that this constitution is the reason people are dying of hunger all over the country, that Nigeria has become the poverty capital. If people like Peter Obi knows, people like Pat Utomi knows that, and I'm just using if, because I can report to you that we have discussed it with them a whole number of times across the last 15 years. They know everything about what we are telling you now, that their loyalty is not with you. And so they are talking about PDP that will replace APC, or Labour Party that will replace APC or the PDP. Utomi is there going again now trying to assemble young people that do not know anything, that the young people that they deny the lesson of history, young people that they didn't teach civic studies, who now think it is leadership and corruption that is the problem. Let us just solve leadership. Peter Obi will become the replacement of constitution. Are we not all mad people? What will the emergence of Peter Obi do to to rectify that preamble of that constitution that claimed falsely that we submitted our lands and our people into the union. That claimed falsely that we discussed amongst ourselves, having families resolved to live in unity as individuals and indissoluble. And that we wrote this, we made and enacted this constitution for ourselves. Anybody who wins to become president will have to swear to defend and uphold that constitution. So it is our own people who are swearing to defend and uphold that constitution, whether they are in your state assembly or their governor or their senator or their president to be, or they are just proprietors of political parties. What do political parties do other than to go compete for power? All the political parties in Nigeria subscribe to that constitution. Between the people that impose that constitution and the ones who have been going to elections under the people who subscribe to it, the political parties that drive us to election every 4 years, between the Murtala Mohammed that imposed it and the people who have been sustaining it, who is holding us in bondage today? It is the political party, the willing tools. And they are there from the ward to local government, to state, assembly, governor, senator, house of reps. They are the ones holding you in bondage for the benefits that come back to them from that constitution. Because all the money in the treasury becomes something they share among themselves and they don't owe you any iota of obligation. They have immunity. You cannot, the 37 men whose signature move all the monies from the treasury, that's the president and the 36 governors. They have immunity in section 308. So they can pull all the money from the treasury. Their appropriation provisions already give them a big room to take all the money. They only need to use Ghana must go to put the appropriate figures. They know that they cannot get more than 100 billion. They put appropriation for 300 billion. So they already have a threshold to take half, which the constitution permits them in section 81, 82, and section 121, 122 for governor, 81, 82 for president, 121, 122 for governors. That is, they put figures, bogus figures, because those appropriation provisions allow them to take 50% of whatever was in the appropriation the year before, not what was spent. Everything you know about Nigeria is a scam designed to defraud. So you think that the National Assembly is there or the State Assembly is there overseeing the appropriation such that, that's not the case. The Constitution and the ones who are competing, the ones who are contesting for those offices, they know all this. They know they cannot change it when they get there because they have to swear to defend and uphold it. It's even beyond their mandate. The president does not have the power to change one alphabet in the constitution. Otherwise, Obasanjo would have changed it. Otherwise, Jonathan would have changed it. It is only the people who are living in that bondage that should mobilize, rally themselves to even know. They don't know, including the ones you call senior advocates, including the ones you call lawyer and professor. They don't know. We have engaged them. The few that get to know are dishonest. You saw the fellow that went to draft a bill of to substitute a constitution that we are rejecting because we didn't make it. Caliphate-Controlled will now go and write a draft bill standing on what Olusegun taught them. You saw Olusegun in 2023 December telling Akpabio in the presence of Tinubu that they don't need all this noise and distraction from outside, that the National Assembly can draw power from section 4 of that same constitution and remove the schedule. Just remove the booklet, write another booklet, put in there, you are National Assembly, do it. That's what Caliphate-Controlled had tried to operationalize in the draft bill he sent, which is all over the internet right now. People are still sending it to me. Of course, we have responded to it to say that is buffoonery. That's how we described it. They are criminals, and what they have done is treasonable. Absalom Abaka committed treason against us in 1999 when he said that we, the people, submitted our sovereignty. This National Assembly that have been hanging onto that constitution, they have been compounding that treason, but they now know that we have defeated that constitution. So they want to just find a happier way. Olusegun is guiding them in that happier way. Akinfakbouda has now put an operationalization mechanism, and people were already calling from everywhere. Oh, they are about to. The National Assembly's mandate does not extend to constitution making. It's limited to law making. Any lawyer that tells you otherwise, tell him that Tony Nadise is illiterate. And they are going to be punished severely for what they are doing now, because they are the ones holding us hostage. They are the ones somebody is raping you. The one that is holding you for that rape to continue, for that killing to happen to you, is the people from our territories that swear to defend and uphold our constitution, that sit in Abuja and the state capitals, pointing guns at us, guns that Fulani gave to the people standing with them. They don't control one of those guns, one rifle. They can't give on their own accord. So it is Fulani that is defending them from you and mandating them to take all of what they can take, because they've taken their own from source. The British that assembled the criminal enterprise is the owner of Shell and Mobil and Chevron. I'm sure you hear about the Seven Sisters. You may think that Chevron is not related to Mobil. You may think that Shell is not related to Earth. You hear they call them Seven Sisters. The British that set up the criminal enterprise, taken from source. It is from the commission they give to the Caliphate that your NNPC begins to get anything at all. They are together. But if 220 million people that are in trouble, including the house that own the Hausa land, Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination is all the lands that the British conscripted into this union in 1914, excluding those who don't own any land. And it's only the Fulani that don't own any patch of land in Nigeria. Why have they been controlling everything since the beginning of the union in 1914? This is the first time that the owners of the land will have to come to the table to decide what will happen, because the collapse of the defeat of that constitution is the end of the union anchored on it. And that's the end of the union of 1914 by extension, because the owners of the land had never been allowed to discuss their union. Not in 1914, not in 1922, not in 1946, not in 1959. You hear about Littleton and McPherson and Richard's constitution. All of those, the owners of the land, the Yoruba had never been invited as Yoruba to decide whether they want to be in union with Ijo and Igbo and Beromantif. All the way to now, the one of 1999 still staring at us in the face. No meeting at all. One Nicky Toby goes to town, then goes back to one Absalom Abaka, and he says, okay, most people want a return to what Murtala Mohammed commissioned in 1975. And then it became constitution. And for 25 years, we are still carrying it forward. And people in 2024, seeing all of what they have seen, are still holding meetings that will become election in 2027. I tell you, if they are allowed by the people who are suffering from that constitution to gather traction and begin to go towards another election under this constitution, then you all truly deserve to perish. You don't deserve to own any land. You are being told something that has ruined several generations, and it doesn't bother you because you are still getting by. Ninas will do what it can, but you know what? We told them don't go to 2015. They ignored it and went. Buhari happened. 8 years. Their lives turned upside down. They thought they had gotten to the end of the pit. We began to shout from that time, if you go to 2023, the Fulani that imposed this constitution are dragging you to election to sustain the union. It doesn't matter that one of them may not be president. As long as that constitution is in place, they are taking 72% of everything on the table. They are in control of the guns everywhere they are. It doesn't matter that some fellow say he's commander-in-chief. If he's commander-in-chief, between him and Fulani, Who were those who were beheading people in Ekiti? The kings of Ekiti. You don't know the covenants that this interregnum president has made with the caliphate. The day you get to know, you will run away from this land. I think enough have been said. What Ninas is telling everybody is that we must, as a matter of urgency, get up and declare in every way we can that we will not proceed to another election under this constitution. That we must go to transition now as a mark of our rejection of that constitution. If we do not say so, and we allow characters like Peter Obi to gather people to say they are going to election in 2027, it will then be our fault. We saw what has happened from going to election in 2023. From the 2020 constitutional force majeure, should we have gotten to election if people listened? The 5-point proposition of Ninas is the last boat leaving the harbor for those who have been living in this danger. If we do not board that boat by stopping by whatever means the political parties that want to drag us to election in 2027, we must be able to stop them in 2024. As a mark of our rejection of this constitution that has ruined our lives for at least 25 years. We can't go to this election because we are rejecting this constitution. We must go to transition now. Otherwise, the union will go into dissolution. We don't need any meeting. We don't need any meeting for people to take their cautions and leave. The goals you didn't have, what Ninas has done has freed your land, has freed your economic assets, has freed your right to access gun to defend yourself because there is no union. It is that false claim that we submitted our lands into this union that is holding your land into the union that the Fulani control, that gave them the gun to point at you and tie your hands to the back, that gave them your economic assets. That's why they have oil block. Your land is oil block for them. Your land is port concession for them. Your land is electricity control for them. It is within our reach to do. We have a choice to do it. And if we fail to do it, I tell you, we have chosen to perish. We'll leave it here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that elaborate explanation. It's now time for comments and questions. Please raise your hand or tap your mic twice and you'll be invited to ask your question or make your comments. We'll give priority to those who are just coming for the first time today. So all with due respect, Tajuddin, please mute your mic.
Thank you very much.
It's not your time to speak now. Tajuddin, please hold on.
Oh, okay. Let me.
Please hold on.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any comment, any question from the audience? Please raise your hands. Mr. Frank, Mr. John, Mr. Emmanuel, Mr. Godfrey. Okay, Godfrey is an old timer. Okay, in the absence of any question from them, Tajuddin, unmute your mic, make your comment or ask your question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening. I think I'm becoming elated by the day, and our brightness shall not dim. One thing is certain, as it is. I must thank the secretary. I must thank our spokesperson. But I want the secretary to take note of one point. It's a comment I want to make very briefly. We now know how many African leaders are now on jail sentence. What I want the secretary to do right away now is to start documenting all the names our spokesperson had mentioned on our behalf. So about the time our spokesperson shall lead us to the El Dorado, while the whole world will listen, some they will know who are those people to be tried. Whether Awolowo said he will go into trying people or putting them to question or probing them was the reason he didn't win, let us leave that one to history. The time to break that one down is not now. But I want the Secretariat to note all these things. All the Agbakobas, the Fagbenis, and all the Esekomens that are now twisting the hands of the Constitution upside down are the people that will be the first collateral damage. Let us note all those things that people are doing. And then, secondly, I will also suggest that we will not rescind on our effort to continue in this advocacy. We shouldn't. We will continue to talk. What is it that should stop us from talking? As Minas, nothing should stop us. I also will plead that let us try as much as possible. You can no longer be gagged. The moment you come under the banner of Minas, no government will come near you. Town hall meeting is becoming crucial and resilient for us to consider as one of the ways out of preventing any other election, whether 2024 or 2027. I thank our spokesperson very diligently, not from my mouth, but from my heart. And I also commend once again the efforts of the Secretariat. So I want the Secretariat to be doing the synopsis, the items, itemizing what and what shall be content of our submission in addressing the alliance territory when we shall go off air. I may go on air for immediate implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Any more questions or comments?
Dafe, I've got one. I don't know if I can be heard.
Yes, go ahead then, Didi. Okay. Thank you.
My comment is in two parts, and it's regarding this thing called a constitution. Possibly some of the young people or many Nigerians don't understand the importance of a constitution because it's a set of laws, and it's the main laws that create the environment of any country. So for instance, in South Africa, they had an apartheid system. So everybody knew that their constitution was no good. But our constitution, the one in Nigeria, doesn't have the word apartheid in front of it. It's got the word forgery. It's a forgery. That should have been enough for thinking people to know that that thing is your enemy. It's a forgery. It means it doesn't belong to you and it's not working. And, you know, the importance of laws is that the law creates your life. If tomorrow they put in slave laws, all of us will become slaves. And it's all because of laws. And that's what the 1999 Constitution is doing. Everyone can see how, I read somewhere that about 75% of young people want to go abroad. What are they running away from? They're running away from the environment created by this 1999 Constitution. So if I go back and we use the word apartheid like in South Africa. So when South Africa had an apartheid system, even if they had a wholly white man who would be their president, he would still have to apply the apartheid system on the country. So the black people would still be unhappy, even if they got a wholly black man to become their president. He would still have to apply the apartheid system to his own black people. That is how bad things are for us in Nigeria. So that was point number one. Point number two is that this constitution, it locks us down. It's a forgery. Nobody would accept a forgery. If I owed you money and I gave you counterfeit money instead, you're not going to accept it. So why would we accept a forgery as a constitution and think that we're intelligent or that we're normal? So, you know, this constitution, they're using it as an invasion. The NINA spokesman has said several times over the years that it's the battle script of the Fulani. So when I'm in Nigeria, you know, it's an invasion. You've got in this invasion, many things are manufactured, like lack. In Nigeria, there's so much lack. I've never when I'm in Nigeria, I feel, oh my goodness, where am I? What planet is this? Lack of everything here. Lack of electricity. Lack of affordable food. Lack of jobs. Lack of proper health services and hospitals. That's why your politicians and your pastors, they all go abroad, because they know that there's lack here. That's why their wives and children are abroad. So those of us who are here, why can't we understand something so simple like that? Then, so the other thing that it produces is danger. Danger from armed Fulani. They're raping people. They're kidnapping people. Imagine that if you got kidnapped today. They're killing people. Doesn't that make us, think, oh my goodness, I have to remove this thing, this one thing, this set of laws, that's a forgery. Shouldn't that be the most important thing for me to do? It's destroying black people. We're complaining about, others being racist on us, whether it's a Chinese man who pushes over a black girl and she dies. But what are we doing to our own black people by allowing this constitution to remain? And then the other thing it does is it puts us in bondage. We are all in bondage to the Fulani conquest agenda. I started coming to Nigeria to visit, 1 month a year in 2010. At that time, I could go for walks in my village around the farms. Now I cannot, because the Fulani are around. We are in bondage because of the Fulani conquest agenda. So we really have to be serious about it. And it is one thing that is doing all this to us. And it is a forgery. It's not even a real thing. We never made it. And here is the NINAS plan, a brilliant plan that you don't even have to go to war to get rid of it. So that is all I have to say. So I'm just appealing to young people. I'm an old person, so even if I die, nobody's going to say, oh, she died young. But you young people, you're supposed to have your lives ahead of you, and you've got nothing at all if you allow this constitution. Go and check your political class and see where their children are. It's June. Last thing I'll say, because I'm rambling on now. We're now in June. You're going to start seeing pictures of them going to graduations in England and in America, because, this is about the season for that. Meanwhile, you're here, no electricity, none of this, none of that. It's wrong. And we really need to start making Black Lives matter. And Black Lives will start mattering when we get rid of this 1999 Constitution. I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndidi. Any more comments or questions?
Yes.
Mr. Bo, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. I wasn't sure how to raise my hands. Okay. Thank you, Ndidi, for that, and thank you, Tony. I want to go back to this. What I thought was a highlight of Tony's presentation, and then I can craft a question from there. Tony, is there a way that we can say for sure that the part of this president's agreement, like surreptitious agreement with them, might actually involve this Ruga? I would like us to get a sense of the seriousness of this, because if this is one of their covenants, then I think we should probably amplify this a little bit more. Is there a way we have a measure of confidence or any data that this might be part of the closed door, or is there a way we can find out? And so secondly, what needs to happen now to kill that initiative, or is it already dead? Is it something they are still thinking about?
They have the first part of the question to ask of evidence of a secret undertaking, a secret covenant. The evidence is in the fact that something that should not happen is happening. Something that should not be done is being done. for no other reason that can be cited. Remember, the day Mefele was removed, looking for evidence, the day Mefele was removed, that same day, 2 letters were signed by Bola Tinubu. One, removing Mefele as central bank governor. The second, removing Mele Kyari as group managing director of NNPC. That same day, Mefele did not sleep in his house because he was put into detention. But the same day, Mele Kyari not only remained in NNPC, he returned to work the next day, and in a matter of few days, his tenure was renewed. And so, the people that handed over to Bola Tinubu did not hand over the control of NNPC to him. He tried to overstep his bound in the euphoria of I'm now president, I can do what I like. They called him to order. So, that's one example. The one of control of guns. Many may not know that there are 2 parallel commands. The people that wear the big ranks and the people that control the guns. You remember the day they killed people at the toll gate? It was a Lieutenant Colonel Bello that led that operation. The GOC in Lagos and the commander, the brigade in Bonicam, none of them knew. Where did that Lieutenant Colonel get his order to open fire on that scale? You had Lagos government looking for money to bury the balance of 130 corpses they had from that incident. Only last year, Lagos government was still having 130 people unburied. That will tell you the number that were killed. That will tell you the kind of operational facilities that was required to open fire on that large crowd and carry the dead bodies, clean up the place, switch off the electricity and the cameras. That Lieutenant Colonel did not act under the instruction of the Major General that was GOC in Lagos, nor the brigadier that was in charge of the body camp at the time, which was the Lagos Garrison Command where the GOC operates from, is right on that same, is on Ozumbambadiwe, is right on that same road, just not quite 2 minutes on a Sunday morning, bearing traffic lights, to drive from the front, where the GOC operates from, to that point where that, how did that Lieutenant Colonel, not even a court, do something that only the Commander-in-Chief can approve of? That command of the armory that the British handed to Ahmadu Bello in the concluding stages of the discussion for independence, which was why Ahmadu Bello overran Awolowo at the point of election in 1959, put him in prison, suspended the Constitution of Western Region in 1962, May 29th. That parallel command was the reason Ahmadu Bello was overrunning the thief that tried to resist and the Western region that tried to resist on the streets of Ibadan. It was to break that command that Nzogbu and Co. came to rescue those who were being beaten down. It was to be able to rearrange the control of the armories that they went to Aburi. That was what there was no other. The regions already had autonomy, had control over their economy, but they didn't have weapons to defend themselves from the brigandage of the people that the British coronated. And so, as I speak with you, that parallel command is still in place. That was why Murtala Mohammed, that was one rank below Gowon. Gowon was Lieutenant Colonel the day the trouble started. But Murtala Mohammed, the major, was the one in charge of where the guns were to do whatever he wanted to do. In all the 9 years Gowon was head, And so, whenever anybody will become president, that thing they go to do in Chatham House, there's a portion of it that happens in Sokoto. They will draw the red lines for you. Peter will be covenanted with them. You heard when we accused him and he had no answer. And then instead of even finding an answer, he came to do it publicly, having done it privately. Didn't you see him in the Arewa House in Kaduna, pledging to them that he will not touch this constitution? And so there are covenants. There are covenants, and it is by the manifestation of the actions that you are able to. You have the language I use. I say we allege. For what other reason will they want to railroad local government autonomy in this manner? They have tried it by amendment of constitution. We blocked it. They now want to fall back on Supreme Court to bypass what has been defeated. So we allege. And if we choose not to believe it, so be it. Anybody that chooses not to believe it, asking me for evidence of something that was done in the dark in a coven of witches, but which we are seeing being executed in the daytime. There's no other evidence anybody will require than the fact that we leave all the antelopes of corruption happening, and we are chasing after the corruption of local government. What of the bulk of the money that is in the hands of the governors? What have we done about that? What about the corruption happening in Abuja day and night? If corruption is the reason we have to go to hand over the control of local government to, and if we, assuming we have no evidence at all, we are just drunkards. What is INEC control of local government going to translate to in the manner of what we have explained so far? And so we are going to work with that. We have made our calculations. That's what I didn't say we saw them meeting and agreeing. We said we suspect. We say that it is our conclusion that that's what they are going to do, because when we were fighting it at the time it was going as amendment, that was how we approached it. And the thing was content. If you are saying whether it's been done or it's been abandoned, the Supreme Court gave the Tinubu presidency, took the 36 governors to court because they want the Supreme Court to run it through very quickly for them. Supreme Court has given them 7 days because they went ex parte. Supreme Court said 36 governors, come and tell us why we can't separate you from the local government account. We are still in the midst of that 7 days. By the close of this week, it will have passed. The Supreme Court can choose any date to give a ruling, and that will be the business done. Then I don't know what the National Assembly will have to do to reflect, because they will now have to make a small amendment that will be they could actually avoid the corruption and do use some other method. So we are close to where it can be finished. If more people do not join, because the people who work in local government and all kinds of people who think that more money will come and they will get more development, that's what they're selling, that the governors are stealing. But what is in the, we are running away from the autonomy that have been hijacked at the level of state. The same we are not seeing the danger in that autonomy being eroded further down to local. So the Fulani will be in control of the 7 and 4 local government areas. All the communities, they will be in charge of processing your councillors. They will be in charge of processing your council chairmen. And since they get their money directly from Abuja, they don't have to pay attention to any governor or anybody in that state. As long as Abuja is satisfied, go and look at what has happened to NDDC. Go and look at what has happened to Niger Delta. What's the one amnesty program? It is the Fulani that decide who gets what in terms of the jobs that have to be done. How the 80% of that, all the money they have to spend. Go and find out who actually controls. But it has your name. And so when they take charge of something, because it is tied to the presidency, When they take charge of something, they process in the manner you have seen them processing all the while. Who will be your councillor? Who will be your local government chairman? That's what I can say. The business, they are in the midst of that business now, and it is our suspicion that it was one of the principal covenants that Tinubu might have made with them to coronate him president in an election he did not win. That's my answer.
Thank you, sir, for that explanation. Any more comments, questions? Okay, in the absence of any further question or comment, Mr. Operator, please, you have the floor.
Oh, just a moment, Daffy. Now, just a moment. Having responded to the bone of contention to ascertain whether or not we can draw conclusion or steps taken by the Tinubu administration surreptitiously trying to bring back Ruga that was resisted. What effort is not too close to us to take in this manner that people will not that will stop people, that is Tinubu and his surrogate.
I'd like to start again. Are you still speaking?
Yes, that's okay. Because I suddenly did not hear anything. That was the reason I paused. So, what is going to be our immediate preparation to counter that question, and
we'll take that.
Having laid down all the points.
I'll like to start again. That will be taken outside this forum. Thank you. Reverend Salami, please, you have the floor.
Yes. Good evening.
I'd like to start again. Please mute your mic.
First of all, the entire team, as well as the NINA spokesman. Yes, on the issue we are in now, I think we should just speed up our mobilization, and I think this is getting down. Like yesterday, I had the opportunity of sitting one of these political leaders here down. He agreed with me that the problem is constitution, and he even promised to tender it in their meeting that nothing will work. So I think we are working. The NINAS is really doing a good job when you consider what is going on. So I just want to plead with us that we continue to increase our mobilization. I mean, not allowing us to be distracted by whatever is coming up. Just as the spokesman will always say, let us just face them squarely, continue, and I know at the end of the day, God will help us in Jesus' name. I yield the mic.
Amen. Mr. Operator, please, you have the floor for closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In closing, I would like to thank everyone, especially our new members. I want to especially thank the NINA spokesperson, Mr. Tony Nadi, for his continued steadfastness in exposing all devices of various government policies hidden behind one form of bill, an enactment, or the other. Let it be known today that attempts at passing a bill that would cede all the body of waters and by extension all lands in Nigeria to the federal government at a time when discussions on whether we want to continue being in a union has not been had is dead on arrival. A major take home today is hold your representatives accountable if the proposed water resources bill as much as makes it to the second reading. On his own part, NINAS would vehemently reject such a move. It would not fly. That bill is a Fulani agenda. All constituents must stand up and resist it. NINAS by this broadcast sounds a note of warning, even to the various governors who are the custodians, governors of the states who are custodians of the land, whether the ignorant ones or those that are in sync and dining with the Fulani Caliphate, that the Water Resources Bill will not be allowed to go through. It is mischief.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Peter.
Okay, sir.
The Water Resources Bill have been defeated. What is going on now in the name of local government? The grazing route, the grazing reserve, the national livestock, the water resources, all of them have been defeated. What has happened now is that they've gone back to local government autonomy, which was also defeated by way of constitutional amendment, where we are now talking about our representatives that will be held accountable, or even state assembly members, because there's concurrence that is required for constitutional amendment. What Tinubu has done now is to go through the judicial arm to try to bypass what they couldn't get by legislative arm. They are trying to invite the Supreme Court to declare a separation between the governors and the council chairman in the joint account. Once the Supreme Court makes that pronouncement, that separation will be done, and then they already put a concomitant to it by another law that says that all the units that get allocation elections will be conducted. They put that in another law that will take effect of its own. That is, the local government that is INEC that will be conducting election. I know they are wangling it somewhere, but it's less risky for them in terms of being challenged or requiring all of the concurrences that will go to full amendment. So they are looking for backdoor to get the Supreme Court to break what is left for them to yank off local government that will then fall into the hands of this federal government, further diminishing the little autonomy left, further diminishing what we have now is a 20% autonomy. If once they pass this through, the states are gone, the local governments will be gone, all the way to your communities. I don't know, more people have to wake up to the danger of what is happening. But people sit by and think that Ninas is doing it. They are busy chasing the next thing they can chase for themselves. But when the killings, when the catastrophe will come, it will land on their head where they are sleeping and being stupid, because that is what it is. That's what I wanted to point out, please.
Thank you for that very timely. Local Government Autonomy Bill is yet another deceit in disguise to completely control the various ethnic nationalities from the center through elections conducted by INEC and funding from the federal account. This is another form of conquest agenda by the Fulanis, like the Water Resource Bill. It must be rejected. I yield the mic.
Thank you, Operator, for that. Ms. Anna, any additional comments, or we just go ahead and end today's section?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and end. We've covered enough for one day. Thank you.
Okay. Justina, please, you have the floor for announcements.
Good evening, everybody. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone for coming for tonight's eye-opening section. These are the announcements of our activities through the week. For us to work effectively and efficiently, we'll be having joint Clubhouse sections together at 7 p.m. Nigerian time on Tuesdays like this. And on Saturdays, we'll be having the Daughters of Truth on Facebook and YouTube at 5:30 p.m. Nigerian time. Please, we are all encouraged in the immediate task of massively disseminating NINA's project materials to all our people. We are to sensitize our people via the NINA's website, www.ninasvoice.org, and on YouTube, NINA's Voice on YouTube, where we have over 400 videos, and we are to admonish our people to watch and share widely. For further information, you can call the NINA Secretariat on 0912-993-155 and 090-647-20016. At the count of 5, this clubhouse will be shut down. The countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Goodbye and God bless you.